the city property is adjacent to quite a bit of a length of that between Pine and the gate, or essentially Main Street. So from Pine on the east all the way to almost to Main Street on the west. So, Mr. Tar?
Yes.
Maybe you just have something specifically you want to share, if you have any questions about where the city is in that process and what it might look for an investment of the school district.
Yes, so this is one street we actually didn't go out for assessments for because it takes months long. You send out letters like Carl got for his house. Our bonding agency told us we're better off just coming to the school and asking if they'd like to pitch in their share. We'd get a contract, whatever number we decided on, and then essentially how that'd work out is it's out for bid now. The bids will be back before your next meeting, and then we'll know exact numbers. The estimated cost is $216,000 estimated. That's a shot in the dark. You never know how bids come in. From gate to gate, half of it for the school, which I would call like the minimum, is about $90,000. So that's what would be like the least amount I think that the city would probably accept. That doesn't have to be paid in a lump sum. That'd be over our life of the bond, which is 15 years. So you're looking not even $10,000 a year. I mean, very doable. Actually, that'd be $150,000, $10,000 a year. But so what would happen is we get our numbers in for next meeting. We could come talk about it. We could set out a number that you guys think is fair, and then we'd have a contract essentially between the school and the city saying that you're indebted to us for 15 years at whatever payments. And then at that point in time, the council would either choose to accept the bid or deny the bid on how much extra cost it's going to be for the city as well. Because obviously everything that you guys don't pick up, the city taxpayers will. So, I guess there's any questions or?
Does that, at 216, I know which is a rough number,
Yeah.
that includes all the engineering and?
That's the cost of them, the street.
Okay.
Yeah, the engineering's already paid for, we're done with that. But
Okay.
yeah, that wasn't essentially not built into this. This is what they think the contractor will bid it out at, is $216,000. They could be 20% high, 20%
Yeah.
low,
Well,
we don't know.
what would happen with the water? Because moving of water will be different if that's all paved, and moving water down there is difficult, right?
They're actually thinking about keeping that pan there, or redoing the pan to make the water move, but essentially where it lays, there's really not much more they can actually get out of there. So it's gonna be roughly the same design that's currently there.
So it would head into the field on the east?
Yes.
Is there a reason that they're wanting to pave it so bad, or?
Well, the school showed desire since I've been here. I think it's been Arnold Stream since he's been here. He's actually asked to do it, and he was there at the 1-6 and asked the council to look into it. And I think he's just been probably adamant enough that they're willing to look into it for the benefit of the community.
So then they're just gonna pave from, like, Rogge's house?
Pavement to pavement. It'll
They'll
be
go all the way across, so then, I guess I'm wondering, because like, doesn't, Albert Frederick own the ground where the pivot is?
yes.
And Ashoff ons the ground on the other side there?
Well, the city does currently.
Gotcha.
That's like a 20-year debacle too. I've been told. Ashraf is supposed to own it, and they haven't surveyed it, and so yeah, we're working through that too.
That's all getting paved too, all the way up to.
Just that whatever, a couple hundred feet left, yeah, from Pine to the gates. So it'd be concrete the whole way. They didn't feel it makes sense to stop at the gates. So.
No, that's what I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out. If you guys are gonna do that.
Yep. So Albert Frederick, so we could have went through the assessment. The only one we would have gained on the assessment is Albert Frederick's, but it would be ag exempt anyway, so it'd still be picked up by taxpayers until if somebody ever, and it's outside state limits, so.
Is there a sidewalk with that at all, just
Nope.
curb?
Just street.
Curb on it?
Yep. We're actually talking about doing like a rollover curb, so we'd be able to drive over, people would be able to drive over and park yet still. I think if we could actually move the fence back on the ball field side, the city side, and we might even be able to park straight instead of, just taking them side too. Because the fence will have to come out for it to be paved, it's too close, so.
How wide are they gonna pave it?
The normal width of the whole entire street there, it'll be the same width as Lincoln all the way down.
They won't raise the dirt any, which could create more water problems on the field.
I did not look at the engineering. I couldn't tell you what they're exactly the heights of them are. I can get that for you, but I'm assuming the engineer to try to get the most amount of water out. I don't know.
Does that water go east or west?
Most goes east.
Or is it just simply?
Trickle east.
So then does it go down that street that runs north and south, on the east side of the football field, or does it go out into that field, the city's field,
It goes along the fence line there.
between the two?
And that, I think, is, in conversations with Mr. Holton prior to, was, okay, if that's all concrete, then all that water's gonna be captured. And it's gotta go somewhere, and it goes east, and it goes, right across the little road into the ditch along the fence line, and it doesn't move very quickly, so, that could be depending upon the amount of moisture you get in a short amount of time, whatever, it won't move quickly, but I guess I don't know that that's a reason to not do it, and you just trust that the engineers will create as best case scenario as you can, to move water, and then you hope you don't have a worst case scenario where you have an event and you have a bunch of rain prior to an event, and you could have a pretty good standing mess of water down there, which we already do to a certain degree, but I would guess that it will be exacerbated quite a bit because most of that water, is there a fall line at all, Jeremy, where any of it runs west?
I don't know.
Or does it come all the way
I would
from
have
the
to look
far
at it. I
west
didn't-
gate? Does it come all the way over?
I didn't even pay attention.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what, the thing about it is, if it's concrete though, you'll actually have access to it, where right now, if it becomes muddy,
Yeah.
you have a lot harder access and everything, so.
Will that street be crowned, so the water will run north and south off of it? Because if it runs off to the north, there's no drainage, you're just gonna have big mud holes on the north side that might run out into
I'm
that
sure there'll be a
parking
flow line
area.
in the north.
Will it be paved like the south side is, where it's kinda got that gutter deal?
I would assume it's probably just normal gutter. I should've looked at that.
And it
for you.
goes, once it gets to that gate on the east, of course, there's a so if it's on the north side of the street, I suppose it would be intended to go
There's a culvert
right there in a
coming out,
culvert,
isn't there?
and come
Yeah.
across underneath the street
Yeah.
and head south.
And that culvert's gonna stay there, they're gonna take it out, put a new one in, and
Yeah.
do all that, so. If you guys wanna talk to our engineers about it, but I guess I didn't pay too much attention, cause I figured that's their
Sure,
expertise.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So that will be, you'll have the bid for next city council?
We will have the bid for, we will have the bid for this, because of the way the months fall, we have the earliest city council meeting possible, like this one, like we're already done with
Yeah.
ours, cause it was last Tuesday. And so our bids will come in after city council meeting, but before this meeting, so we'll have your numbers here, which actually works out better, because the city council have to essentially look at your numbers to know if they're financially capable of handling the rest, so.
And it's a potential summer project or?
Late summer, they're hoping late summer to fall.
Football season.
Between baseball and football.
Yeah, so.
But yeah, as long as they try to do the best to alleviate that water,
Yeah,
because that's been our concern, so.
Unfortunately, I think that's a low part there, so it's really hard to get it out.
Yeah, but if they're gonna redo the culvert, that should help.
Yeah, I think they're gonna take part on the west side, if I'm right, save some, but they're gonna redo and repanel back out and get it going, cause a lot of it's broken up and crumbled, so.
That's concrete, it's not asphalt. The bid is concrete.
Yeah, we don't have any asphalt down, yep.
All right, anybody else have any questions? Okay, thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Okay, number 10, review board policy 60414.
Okay, the reconstruction and improvement, so it's kind of a big policy. I'm sure Mrs. Jensen knows it well, studied it for 3 decades as a teacher here. But there's obviously, several pieces of information in here that, with regard to the Department of Ed and best practice and so on. But asked my principals to look at it. I don't know that we have any information to update on it or any language that's not accurate.
I just had a question. Are we assessing kindergarten through 3rd grade 3 times a year? Are we still doing that?
Kindergarten is 2,
Okay.
because they start in December.
Okay.
But everybody else is 3.
That might need to be changed. No, they have it
Oh,
written
it's
in here
wrong.
that it's
Yeah.
kindergarten
Oh,
through
we don't
3rd,
assess
3
it.
times, 3 assessments a year.
So usually have quite a few kids on a program, reading program?
It's a K-3 thing, and we have, the fall usually starts out with more than the winter. There were probably, I'm gonna say half a dozen kids that went off, but we probably gained 2 or 3. So, I'm gonna say 25-ish.
Seems like reading is where we kind of struggle curriculum-wise, or not curriculum, but with grades. Just-
And it's pretty crucial at those lower levels to pinpoint things that are causing hiccups for kids with reading, so this just helps keep us accountable for that as well.
It was obviously affected more by the pandemic than any other content area. So you can imagine at K, and especially 1, where grade 1 obviously becomes much more intensive at reading instruction, and any disruption of that, will, get, set a kid back, and, it's our teachers and Ms. Hodson just do a terrific job of constantly, screening formally and informally, and, trying to make sure we have supports in place for those kids. Our summer school last year, and hopefully for the next 2 years, being paid with ESSER funds, is designed specifically to accelerate those students who were affected, reading instruction was affected by COVID disruption, going all the way back to spring of 2020. Because those were the most crucial months of the school year, particularly for first graders learning to read. So to try to recapture, that instruction, will be ongoing. So that summer school is a pretty significant investment.
Are they able to take iPads home to do reading at home?
Nope, all the electronic devices in our building stay here.
I didn't know if they got on a program, where they needed some help, if they could be issued one, with the parents' consent, and take it home and used.
Most homes have access to technology in some fashion or another.
All right, there's no more questions, we'll move on to board development. Fundamentals of board service, page 91, 92.
So most of this is about different classes of school districts, and then information with regard to quorum, which folks know is always, half plus 1 is a quorum. The number of members you can have on a school board, 6 is the most standard, but you will find school districts that have, very few have fewer than 6, but up to 9. And how you can go about doing that, if you should choose to want to have a different size school board. But just some good general information about quorum, size of board.
I just want to thank our board, I've never once since I've been on it, we only had four board members at a meeting, we had to vote, 3 to carry, or 2 to, 3 to carry. We've always had at least 5, so I just appreciate that about our board, that we, take the commitment and honor it, do our job.
How did we handle the vacancy the last time? Was it appointed or was it?
Board appoints it, yeah.
Board just came up with.
Well, yeah, you find somebody that's willing to do it. I think we had a couple names.
It wasn't an election. It
No,
wasn't an
well,
election.
it's a vote by the board.
By board,
Private,
yeah.
yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah. All right, anybody else have any comments on that?
How come we don't have an odd number? So it's, instead of the majority happen to be 4, then, you could have, it'd still be 4, but you have a swing vote or whatever. You know what I mean? It just, to me, it doesn't make any sense that there's 6, because you could have 3 and 3 and it doesn't go. I've always thought that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know why it's set that way.
Or 5 people, so there's 2 and 2 and 1 person.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be that last person.
I do have a time.
Yeah, I don't know what's that way. Okay, I see our singers are back.
They are, they're ready to.
We're not singing.
And dancing.
What?
And dancing.
Yeah.
You want me to try one?
Yeah, I'm gonna try it right.
Am I a bad spot for you?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, this is the Nebraska All-State Children's Choir. It is November 17 and 18, 2021. It is in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it is presented by
Kinley Hobson.
Presley Alexander, Macy Darnell, and
Taylor Mosel. Students in Nebraska, grades 4th through 5th, auditioned to participate in the choir. Over 68 schools across the state of Nebraska brought 223 kids to Lincoln. Music we learned before we traveled to Lincoln. We learned songs in Spanish, Latin, Japanese, and English.
this was us in the van. We were here in Plainview, and we went all the way to Lincoln. We made it to Lincoln, checked into our hotel, and we went and ate pizza at Middle Mushroom.
Our day began early. We walked through registration at 8 a.m. and rehearsal began by 8:30 in Kimball Hall.
This is our rehearsal in Kimball Hall.
Final practice before the concert, the first time to sing on the lead center stage. This is a song from our actual concert.
This is one of our favorite songs, and it's Oye.
It was in Spanish, and oye means hey.
So the first two pictures are of us eating. The middle one is us on the way there, and then the two bottom are us performing in after performance.
That one is when we woke. The big one is when we woke up at 6:30 a.m. The one over there on the top is when Ms. Watson took the picture for the newspaper, and then the bottom one is just in the car. Thanks for listening to our adventure.
Did you get the medals for making it to state after
Yeah.
being selected?
3 from our little town, we were well represented, probably 2.
Four.
There was 4.
Macy's
gone.
Macy's gone, okay, yeah, that's even better.
Yeah, Macy's been sick the last few days that they've practiced this, and then Mrs. Hazelhorst, her mother's not doing well, so she is not with us today either. Here you go, if you three bunch together, I'll take a picture right.
Nice job, ladies.
Ready? All right, great job, thank you so much.
Good job.
You can take the rest of the day off.
Thank you.
Moldies are back there like, no, keep her in school. Ooh.
I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, we're good.
Okay,
Yeah,
number
thank
12,
you.
discuss and take possible action on offering a 1.0 FTE teaching contract to Hunter Ashman.
Hunter's currently student teaching with us. Just timing was just right for him, right for us. And, I mean, he was our best candidate. So this was, I think, a slam dunk for Mr. Schmidt in particular, who primarily does all the screening and hiring of high school teachers.
Was there very many applicants?
We did 2 interviews, and I think we had 3 apps.
Which, 3 apps is pretty good.
Yeah.
For science.
I'll make a motion, if we're ready. I'll make a motion to approve the 1.0 FTE certified contract to Hunter Ashburn for the 2022-2023 school year.
A second?
Second.
Okay, it's been first and seconded. Tim?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Chance? Yes.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Number 13, discuss and take possible action on offering a 1.0 FTE teaching contract to Jordan Leak.
Four apps, interviewed 3, is that right?
Yes.
4 apps for math, interviewed 3. You have this young man's resume in front of you. He's currently student teaching at Norfolk Pub. Originally from Minnesota. I think he graduated from the high school. His dad was the principal. And so education, he's grown up around education his whole life. He'll be able to fill a spot or 2 in extra duty for us as well.
I'll make a motion to approve a 1.0 FTE certified contract to Jordan League for 2022-23 school year.
Second?
I'll second that.
It's been first and seconded. Myself, yes.
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Discuss and take possible action on contract terms for Mr. Kyle Schmidt.
Get rid of it.
Well, it's honorable of you to pass up your asking for a salary increase for the hourly workers. I'm sure they'll be very happy with it.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody has any comments with that handling? Okay.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah. We've got committed administration when
And
they give up
supportive
their
of their staff,
salaries.
that's what,
Have you ever seen that?
I appreciate that. Dr. Alt did that,
A few years
yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would be very surprised if you found that in any other school, right?
No.
So definitely appreciate that. So we just make a motion to approve their contracts at this amount, I suppose, huh?
Well, or you
So
can
it's
just say
just for a pay
with
raise.
terms to carry over from previous year, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we'll just change the dates and leave the salary and leave, and all that the same.
Okay.
You sure that's what you wanna do?
Yeah.
Is there anything that we could add to there, like a extra vacation day, or, I mean, is that another discussion? Sick day, I don't know, I just really appreciate them supporting their staff.
I'm not gonna lie, I probably wouldn't use it if I had one, so.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Somebody for
notice it.
that.
We can make it mandatory. And we pick the day.
How about if we give it to Erica?
There
She
you
gets
go.
to
She'll
choose.
take it.
Yeah, that was one thing I asked them. I said, did you two visit with Rich and Erica about
Yeah.
this?
Yep.
Which of course they would have. So, yes, so, I've, done some calculating, some, different things, obviously, with regard to wages. That's just almost 80% of our whole budget pie is personnel expense, and should be, right? And should be. So, what percent, how much will that help offset some potential, double-digit increases in hourly wage rates and all that, which is generally determined at the March meeting. We've done it as late as April. It's been on the agenda for March, and a couple of times since I've been here. It's one of the more difficult conversations the board tends to have, is setting classified wages, because they're not, like your teaching staff, they all fall under one legal umbrella, and that's all done together. Classified, they're different folks, different positions, we have some salaried, some hourly, so that conversation will need to happen again, but there's definitely, obviously, movement nationwide to be very well aware of what people make at an hourly rate in every facet of society. And of course, we've always recognized how valuable a classified staff member is, paraprofessional, and, our cooks, custodians, I mean, everybody. There's no way really to classify or signify. Well, this one is more valuable than that. You really can't. I mean, it takes a team, right? And so I have some data for you there about where our classified are. And so I'll continue to pump some information probably to you throughout the month. I won't wait until your packet comes out the Thursday before the March meeting for you to maybe consider how you'll want to, what decisions you want to make with regard to our hourly rate, particularly our hourly rate employees. All classified, but we have some of our classified staff that are salaried.
One comment I'd like to make too is, bus drivers, 4 or 5 years ago, couldn't get bus drivers, so we up there per route from $30 to $50 a route, hoping to get some more applicants, and we got 0. So to me, it looks like, if we have good staff, we need to keep them, because
Right.
if you lose them, just giving a pay raise isn't gonna get somebody else to apply.
No.
So.
I agree, because you can go work at McDonald's and get $21 an hour.
Really.
I think that's what I heard on the radio the other day.
The other thing we need to take in account, I just read that 55% of educators are thinking about leaving the profession, 55%. And we're really in a nice area, we have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah,
I
that-
appreciate this, but I just also appreciate your work. We know it's not an 8 to 4 job.
Okay, that's all the comments. Entertain a motion to approve Mr. Schmidt's salary for this year.
I'll make a motion to approve contract terms for Mr. Schmidt, same carryover from last year, again for 2022 and 23.
I'll second that.
It's been first and second, myself, yes, Tim?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Dr. Thorpe?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, discuss and take possible actions on the terms for Mrs. Jen Hodson's contract. Again, I think we've had the discussion, so unless you have something to add, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve contract terms for Mrs. Hodson for the 2022-2023 as read.
I'll second it. Jim?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Tim?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you two very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 16, discuss and take possible action on approving membership in the Nebraska Association of School Boards for the 2022-23 school year. It's pretty much just an annual thing that we do every year, formality.
So we don't really need to have any discussion on it?
That's something you want to say?
I don't.
Maybe you wanna, what do we get for our money?
Well,
All the emails and stuff that they
Yeah,
send
yeah,
out.
you know, some representation, obviously, lobbyists with unicameral. So, you know, for example, right now, I was on a Zoom this morning, just bringing administrators up to speed on bills that have been introduced and position that our representatives, whether it's the NCSA, which is Nebraska Council of School Administrators, or NASB, which represents school boards, which can be complicated because you represent small school districts and large school districts. But there's several bills, for example, right now in unicameral that would strip local school boards of local control, and politicians would be making decisions in Lincoln and imposing them upon school districts across the state. And that happens nationwide. That is somewhat part of society. So, you know, we've got, you know, folks that are advocating for us on that level, on, you know, what would be best for your school district, or rural school districts in particular, as our NERCSA membership does help us with. So, I mean, you could go on the website, NASB website, and you know, there, and I should have included that, I just put their letter in there on, well, what comes with membership in a professional organization. It's, you know, professional development, obviously, you know, even though you go and pay for that, it's not, you don't get to go to state convention free then either because you belong. There are non-membership expenses, which are obviously higher than membership expenses.
When I sat in on their annual conference at the state school board, I think they voted on, I think we voted maybe 3 or 4 times. But that one vote had about 80 different sub-topics in it. So they're looking at a lot of different things, working on a lot of different things throughout the year.
Well, I'll move that we approve membership in NASB for the 2022-23 school year.
I'll second. Deb?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Bethel?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, number 17, discuss and take possible action on approving new reimbursement rates for meal expenses.
Okay, it's really not that often where we have meal reimbursement. If we send a group of students or a team off campus to compete and they're gone for a length of time, it's reasonable for the school district to feed them. So for prime example, state wrestling this weekend, so we've got X amount of kids and coaches that'll be in Omaha Thursday night, Friday night, into Saturday night. And so we kind of determine, okay, how many meals will you be away from home? And we're, you know, consistent, whether it's FFA or whether it's wrestling or track or cross country. I have the current reimbursement rates are there in your notes, and you've been out and about enough, and you go out to eat, and you know what it costs to feed somebody. So we just thought we'd bring that to you, and Mr. Schmidt may have a recommendation on maybe what we should consider for those, whether there should be a student rate, an adult rate, Whether that needs to be separate or not, I don't know, it's entirely up to you. It would make things a lot easier if we just said, you know, whether you're a student or adult, we're gonna get X amount of dollars for breakfast, X amount for lunch, X amount for supper.
I agree, I think it needs to just be one, because for one, a lot of the people that are traveling are gonna be high school kids anyway, so they're gonna eat
Yeah.
just as much as an adult
Or even more.
or more, yeah.
Mr. Schmidt, do you have
Well,
any
the
thought
only
on
other
that?
thing I would say is it's easiest for Tammy if you keep it in round numbers, like 10, 15, 20. That way, we're not divvying up ones all over the place. It's just easier to have a good round number that we give out to kids. So yeah, the $10 for breakfast, 15 for lunch, and 20 for supper is what I kinda came up with. What you think of that, that's up to you guys, but, I just know on her end, it would be a lot easier when she's putting it together to give out to kids.
So you hand this out before they leave for the
Yeah.
event?
Yeah.
If we give each kid an individual, so if they're gone for 2 days, we give them 2 lunches and 2 suppers. If they have continental breakfast at the hotel, which we normally try and get, we don't supply breakfast then. So then we would give each kid, the reimbursement for those meals. So, or money, so they can buy those meals.
Most of the time, it's really not a reimbursement.
Yeah.
You know, they had expenses and they bring receipts back. We have some of that. It's infrequent, you know, they fill out a form, but that's rare. More times than not, we're paying that forward.
We're just giving them cash.
Yeah.
And this would be a total, so if you were to go with a 10, 15, and 20,
Bigger money.
over the course of a year, it would be probably less than $1,000 is what your increase in expenses would be. I mean, I'm sure it would be. Because we really don't push out thousands of dollars in meal reimbursement. So it's not a significant amount of money, but certainly wanted your support and approval on what those new rates should be. That we probably have to wait until next school year to go into effect. Probably be best because we've already had a certain rate for part of this year.
And you, Kyle, you think 10, 15, 20? Is that what you said?
Yeah. That's kinda what I was thinking. I mean, if you wanted to go 5, 15, 20, but I don't know lunch and supper, where you can really go, where you can get it less than that, especially a high school kid.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, they could tear up Taco Bell for $20.
You tear up the bathroom too. I'll make a motion to approve meal reimbursement rates, to the 10 for breakfast, 15 for lunch, and 20 for supper. Straight through for students and adults.
Go into effect beginning next.
Go into effect beginning of next school year. Sound good?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been first and seconded, myself, yes, Tim?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, reports, activity director.
Winter season's coming to an end. Obviously, we're sending 7 wrestlers to state, so that's exciting. District champions again. Girls basketball plays tomorrow night, starting sub-districts. Boys will be sub-districts starting next week. The track is gonna get painted. I just got in contact with Lupita. She's supposed to be here this weekend, or not her, but her team is supposed to be here. So either Friday, Saturday, they're gonna paint it, or Monday, Tuesday, whatever the nicest days are. Fingers crossed. And then football schedule came out, so that's all set by the state. We take care of every other schedule that's set up, so we kinda get dictated when we have to play on that one. But we have officials, we have all Friday night games, except for, we have 2 Thursday night games. But the one is the week before playoffs start, so it would be a Thursday, so we have no afternoon games next year. So, that'll be good. And then, but the North Central game's on a Thursday night, and we're on the road that night, so we'll be in Bassett at 7 o'clock and be home at midnight. And we will be in school on time.
All right. Well, that's right.
We'll be back
We
in
don't have a
time.
calendar yet for next school year, so that might come into play.
But that's where we're at. And then track season. First day of practice is officially February 28th, so I know they're starting to get stuff fired up too, so.
Next snowstorm.
That's right. First workout will be scooping snow.
Okay, thank you. Principal's report.
So the presentation that those three girls did was their all-state performance in November. We had 3 teachers attend the winter workshop in January. Brighton Moret, Jess Sauser, and Michelle Mosel all represented Plainview Public Schools very well and did a great job. I mean, they got raving reviews on their information that they shared in their presentations. Our JPP is still going strong. I put in there how much money the playground account has generated. So we're looking at $12,725.28 is what we've accumulated up to this point.
Good job.
And the JPP was a major component to helping make the Clausen Family Night a huge success. So that, if you look at that, you'll see a number there. The only other thing I wanted to add to that has changed since we published this, what? Yeah, but the 6th grade class, we reached out to them. They have almost $3,000 to pay it forward from their pie project over Thanksgiving, and they chose to give $825 out of their pot of money to go towards this Clausen family as well. So we had lots of different people step up to help contribute that number.
We were also contacted by Yankton's doing a story about Northeast Nebraska's support for the Clausen family. And they heard that we had a benefit, and so they reached out to me, and so I shared a picture with them of our gym, mostly in blue, and the sign that Kim Miller's class prepared on our score vision, and you know, the total amount, which is almost $1,000 more here when you add when everything was put together. So remarkable generosity from our community in O'Neill as well, and I should push out to O'Neill Public Schools what that total was, because people were just handing over money. So just good people, just good people in our community.
So was the gate and concessions in that too, or something?
All of it.
Yep.
And concessions, if you donated, you got popcorn, what was that? Anyway, I said, I really don't want popcorn. This little boy, I said, can I just put money in the box? You're supposed to take popcorn. But I just wanna give money. I don't want the popcorn. He said, I'll have to ask. It made my night. It's like, okay, I'll take the popcorn if it's
They're gonna bully you.
necessary.
Always a troublemaker,
I was just throwing a wrench in it, I guess.
We are doing our One Book School, 2 Schools project right now this month in the elementary, and that is in conjunction with Zion. So Zion's doing this with us as well, and they've had a lot of fun with that, different things going on. We've actually got it set up where we're doing our own little scavenger hunt in this library every day. So every day there's at least one clue hidden somewhere in here, and on that clue it is some kind of interesting or fun fact about our staff. So we're doing different things to promote the book, but also have fun with the kids in our building. And that was all thanks to Plainview Pullet. They donated $1,500 towards that project. This week is National Random Acts of Kindness Week, so every day this week, our entire district, preschool through 12th grade students, are doing different things to kind of promote kindness across the board. Dr. Seuss Week, the day that we are celebrating Dr. Seuss is actually March 4th, but that entire week we will do things in the elementary building, and those details are being finalized now, but we will celebrate Dr. Seuss and his birthday. Have a lot of fun in our building with it as well. Parent-teacher conferences. I crunched numbers real quick this morning. Out of the 190 students that we have in the elementary school, we had 23 not show up for conferences. So we had an 88% rate of parents who came to join us for those conferences. So we really do appreciate the support that we get from all the parents.
That's awesome.
And I know in our building, we had a lot more participation than what we've had in the past, so, didn't crunch the numbers as well as Jen did, good job.
Did she tell you not to crunch them this time?
Yeah.
I'm not
She
gonna
likes
do
to
it.
do that.
Don't do
my
it,
papers.
don't
She
do
goes,
it
hey,
this
by the way,
time."
I'm not gonna crunch these numbers, so don't you worry about it either. So, good job. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 70. There you
Okay,
go.
that's-
We'll go
that's
with
great.
70.
We'll take it.
Nobody's gonna argue with
And then
you.
I'll go ask Tammy and she'll tell me 55. It was close. But yeah, this week's FCCLA week, so Renita's doing a lot of stuff. Trivia with the kids. They did all of their Valentine's Day candygrams and stuff today, so she does a great job with it. FFA week is next week, I believe. So Mr. Clement's getting all that stuff fired up, and we'll have tractors out in the street before you know it. And yeah, I put new hires on there, a couple of young, very energetic teachers that you guys just approved today. So excited to see them get in the building, get working with our kids. But we got a little ways to go here before the end of the year.
How are you getting along with the Fridays now that you've had a few more to?
It's going well. I was gonna wait until the end of this week and then push out a survey and kinda get, that way it gives people a full month, to get some feedback from parents and then also get some feedback from the businesses that we're working with. But the ones I have talked to said that it's going well. Kids are communicating really well. And the kids I've talked to have really enjoyed it too. I know the ones going to CHI have had a good experience, so.
All right, thank you, Tim. Number 20, the president's report. It's got a couple things, I guess. It just amazes me how the support we have in this community for, scoreboard, the playground equipment. This tragedy appears and people just step up. I mean, you don't have to twist their arms or anything. They just do it. And I think this is a great community. People really take part in it and support it. Take pride in it, so. And I just want to say, those of you that have signed up for school board for the next election, thank you, and if you haven't, why, I recommend that you do. I'd like to see you on the list, so. That's all I have. So I'll move on to superintendent's report.
Okay, yes, Jen had mentioned that we had 3 teachers demonstrate just terrific leadership at the winter workshop. Certainly love to have other schools around northeast Nebraska say, to talk about your school in a positive way. And if you were in a workshop with Mrs. Mosel or Mrs. Sauser or Mrs. Morat, I mean, practically every teacher we have here is as good as the next. But to be comfortable standing in front of other teachers from a variety of other schools, we're just real proud of them. And of course, you can only imagine how well they represented your school district. Copy machines are in, 2 out of 3 of them are in, and so that's been a good, easy transition because they're similar machines to what we had. There's always a little anxiety. Okay, something, to learn something new, and they're always a little more advanced and a little more digital than the one that goes out, so that's been a good thing. Mr. Schmidt had mentioned, we hired math and science. We interviewed 2 for music last week, for vocal music. We did make an offer, and she had an interview the next day. That was Thursday. She had an interview on Friday in another school district who also offered before she got out the door. So we're waiting for her to make a decision. But we had 2 good candidates, and so if we have to go to our second candidate, we feel really good about that as well. So that's imminent. What's gonna happen with music is potentially imminent. We interview for art tomorrow and Thursday. We had 5 apps for that. And the ones we have on paper that we're gonna interview for art are both currently teaching in other school districts. And so we sure hope we can lock one of those down. They both look like they would be in the reference checks that we've done. They would serve us very well. And so maybe by the end of this week, we will have filled the 4 positions that have opened, and hopefully then that will be it. I don't have any indication that we'll have any others, at this point, although we're aware of, some possible potential there. But we will manage that. Jen had mentioned, or Deb, you mentioned that education's in big trouble. And the state is aware and is trying to be out ahead of it as best they can. A teacher shortage. When you say teacher shortage, it would be staff shortage in general, but specifically with regard to certified teachers. Not as many going into teaching, and that was well before the pandemic. Not as many were going into teaching, but teaching has become more challenging. Not so much here, quite honestly, with what you might hear around the rest of the country or in urban areas and so on. We don't have to use our teachers quite like you may hear in other school districts, because our teachers show up really pretty well, and we haven't had dramatic effect of the pandemic to where we couldn't staff a classroom properly. Maybe a handful of times we'd have to do without. We couldn't find a para, but I don't know that we've ever not been able to find a substitute teacher. I don't think it's ever come to that. But yes, Mr. Schmidt more than Mrs. Hodson will use teachers to cover for teachers. But that's not as rampant as you maybe see and hear about in other districts. It does, however, though, weigh on staff members. I had something in the paper about a month ago with regard to just the stress and anxiety that the whole pandemic puts on you from a professional standpoint, but also a personal standpoint, because you're worried about your own personal health, the health of your family, health of your kids, and have to go and be your best version of yourself as a teacher for your students. So it's tough, and it's weighing on enough people to where not as many are going into it. Some are taking early retirement, some are getting out of the field altogether. And now even fewer will go into it. I've been hiring teachers for 20 plus years, and every administrator will tell you, you just don't get the apps anymore. It flipped from schools being able to choose the best among the candidates to now the candidates choose which school they want. And we go begging for you never would offer a contract to somebody in an interview. That was unheard of 20 years ago, but that's what you do now. Oftentimes, sign right here before they get out the door. So it is tough, and so school districts are trying to figure out creative ways. Working its way through the unicameral right now is a loan forgiveness program for educators, which will repay loans up to $30,000 over the course of 5 years. I think it's either 6 by 5 or 5 by 6. For 5 years, $6,000 a year, or for 6 years, $5,000 a year. But a little like the RHOP program to go and serve in the medical community in a small rural area. You can get your loans paid off. Your medical loans paid off, similar to that. I think that's probably a good idea, probably helpful, because just like we need doctors, we gotta have teachers. We gotta have service everywhere, but you've gotta have teachers. So we've also started talking about, and we have it to a great degree already, grow your own. So we will start talking, identifying, recognizing leadership in kids already in this building, and start to plant those seeds and help maybe guide some of those kids to the field of education. And then 4 years down the road, maybe 5, they come back and serve Plainview Public Schools, because we have a lot of alumni that teach here, and primarily that tells me they had an excellent experience here, and they want to come back and they want to give back. Well, we might need to be a little more proactive and somewhat creative potentially in how we do that, so we can plan to have applicants years down the road, and would love to have a student say, somebody, when they come back to teach and say, the reason I'm here is because Mrs. Hodson told me in 4th grade that she thought I'd be a great teacher. And then when I got into high school, Mr. Schmidt just kept bugging me and bugging me and bugging me and telling me I should become a teacher. That's what we would love to hear and have happen. But we would have to be somewhat intentional and purposeful about that, not just saying it one time. So the grow your own idea is catching fire among school districts across the state. So we may share more about that and how we're gonna try to go about that.
Any way to work that into your Fridays, where they would go do something with, as a teacher. I mean, obviously they don't wanna stay in school and go follow a teacher around, but I don't know, you wanna send them to another school that they might like better than Plainview down the road.
Yeah.
But I mean, somehow if you could figure out how to give them, lean in that direction, with some experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and that's, I would lean towards putting them in another school just because they get to see our school every single day.
Right.
It'd be neat to see somebody else and how they do it and what other schools look like, so.
And in return, you gotta be open to other schools, possibly send kids here too, for the same reason.
not incredibly uncommon for when somebody goes into teaching, they always think about maybe going back to their hometown, because if they're interested in education, it means they're probably having a good experience in their hometown school, and so they're probably gonna be drawn to that, so that's obviously not anything necessarily unique, but to potentially have, you know, 2 administrators here for a couple more decades or more, I think can be very, very beneficial for a high school kid in particular to think, okay, I wouldn't mind having Mr. Schmidt as a principal, and I know he's gonna be here, or I hope or expect that he's gonna be here. You know, and obviously the same with Mrs. Hodson, so, I mean, we have some wonderful things in place personnel-wise to grow our own and to have a pipeline of teachers for the future. Walking our halls already. Okay, that's all I have. I did use a couple of sick days and a half personal days since last month, and those are indicated there in my balance.
What's the overall health of school right now? A lot of kids still sick, a lot going around, the others are cleaning up, or?
It's hit and miss. I mean,
We
our
have a
COVID
handful
was,
across the street
yeah,
right now that are sick, but
I wouldn't say it's even COVID, it's just
Right,
kids
it
sick
seems
with
like
stuff.
everything, you can't get rid of it, it just comes and goes and comes back. All right, any other comments? Questions? All right, we are adjourned, thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody, for making this time work.
Absolutely.